In the big town of Owena, many people worked hard every day. There was a famous company called OTPL, Owena Transport and Parking Limited. OTPL helped people move their goods from one place to another. They had big trucks, strong workers, and smart drivers. Every worker at OTPL wore a brown shirt and brown trousers. People respected them because they were strong and smart. The company had both young boys and old men. Everyone worked as a team. Among them was a young boy named Tund. He was just 17 years old. Tund had no father. His mother sold pepper at the market. She begged the OTPL manager, Mr. Ajay, to give Tund work so he would not join bad boys on the street. Mr. Ajay agreed. Let him come and learn, he said. So Tund joined the company. But from the first day, Tund showed that he was stubborn. He didn't like to listen. When the manager said, stand here, Tund would go there. When the driver said, stay away from the truck, Tund would climb inside. The workers warned him, but he would smile and say, I know what I am doing. The older staff got angry. One man, Uncle Deo, told him, Tund, you are too stubborn. One day, your stubbornness will cause big trouble. Tund just laughed. Nothing will happen, he said. Tund's job was to carry boxes and clean vehicles. But Tund had a secret dream. He wanted to drive the company vehicles, especially the new white minibus. That white minibus was the latest vehicle in OTPL. It was pure white and shiny. It could carry 18 people. The company was proud of it. No one was allowed to play with it. Only Uncle Gok, the most trusted driver, could drive it. Tund loved that bus. Every day, he wiped it clean and stared at the steering wheel. One day, I will drive you, he whispered to the bus. One day, something big happened. It was Tuesday morning. The sky was blue. The birds were singing. Mr. Ajay stood in front of the staff and said, we are going to Ajibu town today. All of us will enter the white minibus. We must carry some goods and return before night. The workers cheered. Even Tund was happy. We are all going in the white bus, he asked. Yes, Mr. Ajay replied. But listen carefully. No noise. No joke. And Tund, stay away from the driver's seat. Tund nodded. Yes, sir. By 9 o'clock, the workers started entering the white minibus. Some carried water, some carried food, and some loaded boxes of goods. They were all happy. There were 15 staff in total. They sat and joked as the journey began. Uncle Gok sat behind the wheel. He wore dark glasses. He had been driving for 30 years. He was slow, careful, and wise. They passed through small towns. They waved at people. Some slept, some sang songs. The bus moved smoothly on the road. But Tund was watching. His eyes were on the key. His heart was beating. He wanted to touch the steering. After 1 hour, they stopped beside a bush to eat. Everyone came down to stretch their legs. Some went to buy roasted corn. Others went to urinate in the bush. Tund stayed near the bus. Don't go near the steering, shouted Uncle Deo. Tund smiled. I won't. But as soon as no one was looking, Tund entered the bus quietly. He sat in the driver's seat and touched the wheel. He pressed buttons. He smiled. So this is how it feels, he whispered. Then he made a big mistake. He turned the key. The engine started. He laughed. Suddenly, the bus began to move. Tund got scared. He tried to press the brake but his foot hit the wrong pedal. The bus rolled forward, slowly at first, then faster. Hey, someone screamed. Stop. But Tund didn't know how to stop the bus. The white minibus moved onto the road. Cars were coming. Horns were blowing. People screamed. The workers ran after the bus. Jump out, they shouted. But Tund was shaking. He couldn't move. The white minibus hit a tree by the roadside. The sound was loud. Glass broke. The front light smashed. The bus bent to one side. The bus matched some OTPL staff. People ran from houses. Motorcyclists stopped. Everyone gathered. Inside the bus, Tand was crying. Blood was coming from his forehead. He was alive but hurt. The workers ran to him. Mr. Ajay shouted, "I warned you, Tand. Look at what you've done." Tand was carried out. 2 other workers also had small injuries because they were near the bus when it crashed. The white minibus was damaged badly. Police came. They asked questions. A report was made. Mr. Ajay was angry. "You nearly killed all of us," he told Tand. Tand cried. "I only wanted to drive small. I didn't know it would move." "You don't know because you don't listen." Uncle Deo shouted. "You are too stubborn." Tand was taken to the hospital. He stayed there for 1 week. His leg was hurt and he had wounds on his arm. When he came out, he was quiet. He didn't laugh like before. He came to OTPL, but he didn't wear his uniform. Mr. Ajay called him. "Tand," he said, "we gave you a chance. We warned you. But you refused to listen. Because of your stubbornness, our bus is damaged, 3 people are injured, and you could have died." "I'm sorry," Tand said with tears. "Please forgive me." Mr. Ajay said, "You cannot work here anymore. Maybe when you learn to listen, you can return." Tand walked away slowly. He went back home to his mother. He told her everything. She cried and held him. From that day, Tand changed. He stayed at home. He helped his mother. He started attending a driving school the correct way. He wanted to learn with care. 1 year later, Mr. Ajay heard that Tand had passed his driving test. He had changed. He was no longer rude. He now listened. He was calm and gentle. So Mr. Ajay called him back. "You are now ready," he said. Tand smiled. "Thank you, sir." This time, he entered OTPL not as a stubborn boy, but as a responsible man. And he never forgot the accident with the white minibus. Tand sitting in front of OTPL company and said, "When you refuse to listen, trouble will come. A stubborn person can destroy many things. But when you change and learn, you can grow. Obedience saves lives. Pride brings shame. Always listen and be humble." Comment and subscribe where watching from. Tand sat quietly in front of the OTPL company yard. The same gate he had once walked through with pride now stood before him like a lesson. He looked at the building, the trucks, and the busy workers going about their duties. But this time, he didn't wear the brown OTPL uniform. He wore a plain shirt and jeans. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Memories rushed back. A year ago, he was full of pride and excitement. He had entered this company with a loud smile and dreams bigger than his hands could carry. But his stubbornness had driven him into trouble, the terrible accident that nearly took lives. Now, he had returned. Mr. Ajay came out of the office and saw him sitting quietly. "Tand," he said gently. Tand stood up quickly and lowered his head. "Good morning, sir." Mr. Ajay smiled a little. "I heard you completed your driving school." "Yes, sir. I now have my license. I also passed the advanced test. I came to thank you for giving me a second chance in life." Mr. Ajay nodded. "You were once foolish, but you have changed. That is what matters." He called the other staff. Everyone gathered. Some looked surprised to see Tand again. Some whispered. Uncle Deo folded his arms and stared. "Tand has returned," Mr. Ajay announced. "Not as the old boy who caused trouble, but as a young man who has learned from his mistake." Tand turned to the staff. "I am sorry for everything. For not listening. For almost getting us all killed. I have learned my lesson. Please forgive me." Uncle Deo walked forward. He looked Tand in the eye. "So you finally hear words." Tand smiled shyly. Yes, sir. Uncle Deo grunted. Good. Because we need drivers who can listen, not just those who want to show themselves. Everyone laughed. The air became lighter. Mr. Ajay gave Tand a chance to drive a small truck that week. He passed the test. He drove carefully, listened to instructions, and followed safety rules. In 2 months, he became one of the best young drivers at OTPL. He even helped train new staff. He would always say, "When I was stubborn, I nearly destroyed everything. Obedience is the real strength." The other staff respected him. They watched how he worked, how he remained calm even under pressure. One day, another young boy, barely 18, joined OTPL. His name was Shola. He reminded everyone of Tand. He didn't listen. He laughed when elders spoke. He played too much. Mr. Ajay called Tand. "Talk to that boy. You know how it feels." Tand walked to Shola and said, "Come. Let me tell you a story." They sat under a mango tree. Tand told him everything, how he once thought he knew it all, how he started the bus without permission, how it rolled into the road and crashed. "How did you feel after?" Shola asked. "I felt useless," Tand said. "I cried for days. I almost lost my leg. I lost my job. But I changed. I humbled myself. That's why I'm standing here today." Shola nodded slowly. "I want to change too." Tand smiled. "Then you are already better than I was." Months passed. OTPL grew stronger. They bought 2 new white minibuses. Mr. Ajay called Tand and handed him the key to one of them. "We trust you now," he said. Tand looked at the bus. It was shiny, clean, and powerful. But this time, he didn't rush to touch it. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." He opened the door, sat in the driver's seat, adjusted the mirror, fastened his seatbelt, and waited until every staff was seated properly. Then, he started the engine. It was smooth, calm, controlled. As they drove through the streets of Owena, people waved at the white OTPL bus. Children pointed and shouted, "OTPL is coming." Inside the bus, Tand smiled. He drove with care. He remembered the past but lived in the present. When they returned from the journey, the staff clapped. "You are now a real OTPL man," said Uncle Deo. That evening, Tand stood once again in front of the company gate. But now he stood tall. He turned to the younger boys nearby and said, "When you refuse to listen, trouble will come. A stubborn person can destroy many things. But when you change and learn, you can grow. Obedience saves lives. Pride brings shame. Always listen and be humble." And from that day, many young boys in Owena looked up to Tand. He had turned his mistake into a message. And that message changed many lives. Tand's life continued to grow. He became a leader in OTPL. He trained others, guided them, and made sure no one repeated the mistake he once made. Years later, people still told his story to one others. Tand would smile and say, "I am not perfect. But I chose to learn. And learning changed my life." And every time he passed the old tree where he crashed the bus, he would stop, look at it, and whisper, "Thank you for the lesson." One Sunday morning, Tand entered a small church near his home. He walked to the altar and dropped a brown envelope in the Thanksgiving box. He looked around and said, "Today, I give thanks to God. For saving my life. For changing my story. For lifting me when I fell." The church clapped. The pastor nodded and said, "This is what it means to be truly changed." Tand sang with the choir. He danced with joy. He gave thanks not just for himself, but for every young boy who would hear his story and change. And from that day, Tand was not only known in OTPL, but also in the community as a man who was once stubborn, but now was wise. Please subscribe and comment where you are watching from. After Thanksgiving the next day, Tand woke up early in the morning. Bow and dress up. He wearing uniform, wore it with pride, and looked cute. His eyes showed peace. His face looked handsome and stronger and wiser. He carried his small bag and stepped outside. Everyone greeted him, "Good morning, Mr. Tand." "Good morning, Ma." Tand replied with a smile. He walked to the OTPL yard. As he walked, the young boys on the street waved at him. "Driver Tand." The humble one shouted. "Tell a story today, please," another one begged. Tand smiled and said, "After work. Come to the mango tree. I will tell you something useful." At the company, everything was moving fast. The white minibuses had trips that morning. Goods needed delivery. Staff were loading items and checking papers. Mr. Ajay stood near the office talking with some visitors. When he saw Tand, he smiled and waved. "Come," he said. Tand walked to him and greeted respectfully. "These are men from Lagos. They want us to send one of our best drivers to help train their new company drivers for 2 weeks. I told them about you." Tand's eyes opened wide. "Me? Lagos?" "Yes," Mr. Ajay said. "You've earned it. They will pay you well, and we will still give you your full OTPL salary. But more than money, it is a chance to share your story and help others." Tand felt his heart beat fast. He had never gone to Lagos before. "I am ready, sir," he said calmly. That Sunday evening, Tand packed his bag. His mother, who once cried over his foolishness, now prayed for him with joy. "God bless you, my son," she said. "Go and shine your light." Tand entered the bus to Lagos. As the vehicle moved, he looked out of the window and whispered, "I never thought I would go this far." In Lagos, the streets were big and busy. Tall buildings, loud traffic, bright lights. Everything moved fast. He was taken to the new company, Unity Logistics. The manager, a kind man named Mr. Kenneth, welcomed him. "We've heard of your change, Tand," he said. "We want you to teach our young drivers about responsibility." Tand was given a small office. He was surprised. There was a name on the door, Tand, visiting trainer and safety coach. Every morning, he stood before the drivers. Some of them laughed when they saw him. "This one? He looks too calm," one said. But Tand smiled and spoke with wisdom. "Calmness is power. Let me tell you what I once did." And he told his story again. The accident. The pain. The change. At first, some didn't listen. But slowly, day by day, they watched how Tand behaved. How he taught with patience. How he corrected with love. One day, a driver named Junior came late and angry. He threw his key on the table and said, "Nobody should teach me how to drive. I've been driving since I was 14. Tand looked at him and said softly, "And I once said the same thing. And that day, I almost killed my brothers," Tand said. "I nearly lost my leg. I lost my job. I lost respect. But I changed." Junior sat down quietly. From that day, he listened more. At the end of the 2 weeks, all the drivers clapped for Tand. "You are not just a teacher," one said. "You are a friend." Mr. Kenneth gave him a brown envelope and said, "This is small. More than this, we want you to come again." Tand returned to Owena with joy. He gave part of his money to the church, some to his mother, and kept the rest for his future. Months passed. One rainy night, there was a knock on Tand's door. He opened it and saw a familiar face, Shola. But this time, Shola was not smiling. "Tand," he said with shaking lips. "I crashed the bus." "What? Are you okay?" "Yes. I'm fine. Nobody died. But I feel useless. I feel ashamed." Tand pulled him in and sat him down. "This is the point where you decide who you want to become," Tand said. Shola cried. "I didn't listen. I wanted to show I was strong." Tand held his shoulder. "You are still strong. Strong enough to admit wrong. That's the first step." The next day, Tand went with Shola to the office. They explained everything. Mr. Ajay was calm. You remind me of Tand many years ago, he said. Now, learn like he did. Shola was suspended for 2 weeks. But he used that time to learn from Tand. He followed him everywhere, took notes, then asked questions. When he returned to work, he was better. Soon, people started calling him Small Tand. Later that year, the big road safety conference came to the Owena Stadium. Different transport companies were invited. Tand was chosen to give a speech. He stood before over 500 people holding a microphone. He wore his brown OTPL uniform and looked proud but humble. My name is Tand, he said. Once, I was the most stubborn driver. I refused to listen. I thought I was smart. But one day, my pride almost took my life. He told the full story. The accident. The pain. The journey back. When he finished, everyone stood up and clapped. You are a hero, said one of the safety officers. No, Tand replied. I am just a man who chose to change. From that day, schools began inviting Tand to talk to students. He started a small safety club called Drive Right, Live Right. He spoke to young boys on the street. Some joined him and became his team. Together, they cleaned roadsides, painted warning signs, and taught market women how to cross highways safely. OTPL supported him. Mr. Ajay gave him small funds and transport. Years later, Tand was no longer just a driver. He was a leader in the community. He married a kind woman named Amara, the nurse who once treated him after his accident. Together, they had 2 children, Moyo and Jide. He taught them from young, always listen. Obedience saves lives. One day, he took them to the mango tree. He pointed to it and said, this is where my new life began. Moyo, his daughter, asked, how can a tree change a life? Tand smiled. Because that day, I sat here with shame in my heart. But someone gave me a second chance. And I took it. The children hugged him. You are the best, Daddy. From there, he became the head of OTPL Safety and Training Department. Every new staff had to pass through him. He taught with love, laughed with the team, and never stopped telling his story. And every Sunday, he stood in church, singing and thanking God. One Sunday, as he stood with the choir, the teenage boy ran to the altar. I want to give testimony. He cried. I've been stubborn. But I had Tand's story. I want to do better. The church clapped. Tand smiled, tears in his eyes. He walked to the boy, hugged him, and whispered, then your new life begins now. And just like that, another life was changed by a story. By a man who once almost lost everything, but chose to rise again. And as long as Tand lived, he never stopped teaching, guiding, and helping. Because he knew that one act of obedience could save many lives. And one story, if told well, could change the world. Please subscribe and turn the notification bell, then drop your opinion for the comment section.